हाँ ready है. Hello learners, welcome to our senior secondary course of environmental science of NIOS. I am Nilam Gupta, course coordinator of environmental science. Welcome you all in this program. Learners, as we know that we need to energy for doing anything. We get energy to do our work from food. Plants get energy from sun to prepare their own food with the help of water, sunlight, minerals and carbon dioxide. When in case of vehicles, so vehicles work due to petrol, diesel, CNG or electric as a fuel. So, we can say that energy is the capacity to work and power is the rate of energy delivery. In the modern era, energy is essential for mostly activities in our modern society. Its use of or consumption is generally taken as a index of standard for living. We use energy in the form of firewood, fossil fuel, electricity, CNG to make our life more comfortable and convenient. When we talk about home, our home, we use electricity for lights and fans, air conditioner, heater, water heater, microwave, room heaters, washing machine, dryer and many more gadgets too. We use petrol, diesel, CNG and electricity for our cars, buses, autos, trains. So, we can say another sector, that is industry and agriculture. Large amount of energy is being consumed by these industries and agriculture field too. In our offices, we use energy to run our AC, fans, computer, lights, photocopying machine and many other things too. We also use, we have already talked about vehicles, transport. So, we can say transportation uses a large percentage of all the energy used in the form of fossil fuel. So, during this program, we will talk about or discuss about the role of energy in our society. And this is lesson number 27B of the optional module 8B. Title of module is Energy and Environment for your environmental science course. So, what we will discuss during this program is concept of energy, importance of energy for human society, first and second law of thermodynamics and various sources of energy. We can cover various sources of energy in the form of renewable energy sources and non-renewable energy sources too. So, let us begin the program by defining what is energy. As we already say, the ability to do work. We are taking several examples to prove this. Energy from the sun gives us light during the day. Sunlight dries our clothes when they are hanging outside on a clothesline. It helps plants and crops to grow. Energy stored in plant is eaten by animals, giving them energy, and predator and animals can eat their prey, and which gives them energy. So, this is energy is how can we study energy? The branch of the physics, that is thermodynamics. Thermodynamics studies the relationship between heat, work, temperature and energy, and it explains how energy is transferred and transformed in physical system governed by 4 fundamental laws. And question arises, who discovered thermodynamics? So, answer may be Julius Robert Mayer and James Prescott Joule are generally considered to the creator of the first law of the thermodynamics in 1840s. Nicholas Leonard Sadi Carnot is often described as the father of thermodynamics. So, the energy of the we know the process of photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is a process for preparing food by the plants. So, energy of the sunlight is absorbed by the plant, green plant especially, during the process of photosynthesis, and this solar energy is stored as chemical energy in the form of food or biomass. So, in case of human beings, how can we take energy? When we eat food, our body transform the energy stored in food into energy to do work. When we talk, we run, we walk, we think, or even we read. We burn food energy in our body, but where does energy comes from? There are laws which governs the energy. So, we will talk about the first law of thermodynamics. It deals with conservation of the energy, which says that energy cannot be created or destroyed, but can only change from one form to another. Second law of thermodynamics states that in every energy transformation, some energy is always lost in the form of heat, which is unavailable to do further useful works, or in other words we can say no energy transformation is 100% efficient. It means at each energy transformation some energy is lost as waste heat and dissipated into the environment. So, heat is familiar to everyone because we all know that how it feels in hot summers and cold winter days. The degree of hotness of a body can be measured with the thermometer, which contains a fluid that expands as the temperature rises. And heat is one of the many forms that energy can take, and heat is one form of energy into which all the other forms of energy can be fully converted. So, unit of heat is calorie or joule is used to express the amount of energy. A gram calorie is the amount of heat required to raise the temperature of 1 gram of water through 1 degree centigrade, and is the unit in which energy value of food or any other organic matter is expressed, although it is now being replaced by joule. And joule is a practical unit of work. It is derived by SI units of the energy or work, being the work done when a force of 1 Newton displaces the point by 1 meter. So, now we move to the sources of energy, and it is important for us to know about the various sources of energy, as it is essential for us in our lives. So, sources of energy, when we talk about sources of energy, it may be renewable or non-renewable. Renewable energy source that we can use over and over again. In case of non-renewable energy, when the energy sources cannot be reused. So, renewable sources is the term used to describe energy that comes from sources whose supplies are regenerative and virtually inexhaustible. These sources can be replenished in a short period of time. Some of the renewable sources of energy are solar energy, biomass, biodiesel, hydropower, wind energy, wave energy, ocean thermal energy, geothermal energy, and fuel cell technology. The most common energy source received in our planet is the direct sunlight. So, first we will talk about solar energy. Solar energy is inexhaustible and it comes to earth in the form of visible light and infrared radiation. When we have always used the energy of the sun as far back as humans have existed on this planet. People worship sun as a sun god because it is solar energy which runs the earth. Every day we use the energy of the sun in many different ways. Without sunlight, life without would not exist in our planet. Plants use sunlight to make their own food, animal eat plants as a food, and decaying of plant hundreds of millions of years ago produced fossil fuels, coal in the form of coal, oil and natural gases that is we use today is actually sunlight stored millions and millions of years ago. So, this energy can be harnessed in a variety of ways to heat home, heat water, grow plants and produce electricity. And solar power includes active, passive and photovoltaic technologies and practices. We will discuss when we talk about the renewable resources in detail. Then we take solar power in the form of active, passive and photovoltaic technologies and practices. So, second type of energy is biomass energy. Biomass energy or bioenergy is the energy from organic matter like fire, wood, twigs, dead plants, bark, cattle dung, livestock, manure and dead animal matter. Plant leaves convert sunlight into chemical energy and which is stored in the plant. So, animals that eat dead plants stored chemical energy in their bodies. Some of it also remains in manure and other waste. So, biomass fuels are renewable because the raw materials can be produced simply by growing more crops or collecting more organic waste. So, the use of renewable energy is not new. Traditionally, wood has been as the main source of energy for thousands of years, ever since people started burning wood to cook food or to keep warm. Even today, firewood and crop residue form a largest biomass energy source and is used by rural communities and forest dwellers too in recent times also. Biogas can be produced from cattle dung, human feces and other organic waste by the process called anaerobic digestion in a biogas plant. We consider biogas as a clean, non-polluting and low-cost fuel. Biomass fuels are obtained from agriculture waste, alcohol fuels, animal waste and municipal solid waste. So, now the biomass which would normally present a disposal problem is converted into electricity. Example we can take manufacturing waste, rice, hulls and black liquor from paper production. But many other sources of biomass now can be used including plant residue from agriculture or forestry waste and the organic component of municipal and industrial waste. So, nowadays alternative of using biomass are still being discovered. One way is to produce ethanol, a liquid alcohol fuel from biomass unlike other renewable energy sources. So, biomass can be converted directly into liquid fuels for our transportation needs and most common type of biofuels are ethanol and biodiesel. So, now we will talk about biodiesel. Biodiesel is obtained by trans-eutrophication of the vegetable oils. So, eutrophication is the process of dehydration and of alcohol to form ethers. Reaction is an attractive process that can be used to convert glycerol into value added products. Biodiesel is obtained by trans-eutrophication of the vegetable oils. Eutrophication is the process of dehydration of alcohol to form ethanols. Reaction is to attractive process that can be used to convert glycerol into value added products in the production of fuel additive, because it plays an important role in glycerol conversion reaction and consumer demand for clean renewable energy that have stimulated growth in green power, solar, wind, geothermal, steam, biomass and hydroelectric sources of power. So, oil rich seeds of the wild plants rich in non-edible oils are the potential source of biodiesel and seeds of Pogamia, Jatropha, neem are the favorite for producing biodiesels. So, next type of renewable energy is hydropower. Hydro means water. So, flowing water creates energy that can be captured and turned into electricity. That is why it is called hydroelectric power or hydropower. Hydroelectric energy from water is also known as renewable source of energy. So, hydroelectric energy or power is energy which is produced by the action of falling water turning a water wheel, propeller or turbine. So, almost all hydroelectric energy is used to produce electricity, although early pioneers built water wheels to grind grain and operate other machineries too. Most common type of hydroelectric power plant uses a dam on a river to store water and in a reservoir. In power plant, power is sent from a power grid into the electric generators. These generators then spin the turbine backward, which causes the turbine to pump water from a river or lower reservoir to an upper reservoir where the power is stored. To use the power, the water is released from the upper reservoir back down into the river or lower reservoir. This spins the turbine forward, activating the generators to produce electricity. Small hydroelectric plants or micro hydroelectric plant power system does not necessarily require a large dam, but just use a small canal to channel the river water through a turbine, which can produce enough electricity for a home, farm or a small village. Next type of energy, renewable energy is wind energy. Wind has a kinetic energy. So, kinetic energy can be changed into the other forms of energy, either mechanical energy or electrical energy. So, when a boat lifts a sail, it is using wind energy to push it through the water. This is one form of energy. Farmers have been using wind energy for many years to pump water from wells using windmills. So, wind energy is a clean renewable energy source produced by a daily cooling and heating pattern on the surface of the earth, and it can be harnessed to produce electricity, pump water, grind grains and move sailing vessels. Next type of energy is wave energy. Oceans and sea waves are caused indirectly by solar energy. Wave energy is derived from wind energy, which is driven by in the form of solar energy. Wave energy may be converted into mechanical energy and then to electricity. Next type of energy is ocean thermal energy conversion. So, conversion of solar energy is stored as heat in the ocean into electrical energy by using use of temperature difference between the warm surface water and the colder deep water. So, geothermal energy refers to energy contained in underground rock or and fluids. So, although it can be used to heat homes and other buildings. So, thermal or heat energy deep within the earth may heat water or form steam. Geothermal energy is used to power steam turbines and generate electricity, and this heat is a result of the increase in the temperature of earth with increasing depth below the surface. And geothermal energy is the energy which comes, as we know, inside the earth, that is energy contained in underground rocks and fluids. So, geothermal energy is responsible for heating of water of hot water springs. Next type of energy is renewable energy, fuel cell technology. Fuel cells are derived that directly convert hydrogen into electricity. So, to use hydrogen, it must be separated from these other elements. Hydrogen as a fuel is high in energy and is very promising clean fuel, because hydrogen is a gas and it is a colorless, odorless gas which is found on the earth only in combination with other elements like oxygen, carbon and nitrogen. A fuel cell converts hydrogen and oxygen from the air into electricity. A machine that burns pure hydrogen produces energy and pure water without causing any pollution. So, as we know, fuel cell technology is a very promising technology for use as a source of heat and electricity in buildings and as an electrical power source for vehicles. Some algae and bacteria, those using sunlight as their energy source, give off hydrogen under certain conditions. So, large amount of energy is needed to produce hydrogen from water. So, it will not come into its own as a clean alternative until renewable energy is widely available for the process. In the future, hydrogen could substitute electricity as an important energy carrier. So, now we have an idea, hydrogen powered vehicle. An energy carrier stores, moves and delivers energy is a usable form to consumer, and renewable energy sources like sun cannot produce energy all the time. So, sun does not always shine, but hydrogen can store this energy until it is needed and can be transported to wherever it is required. So, this is all about different types of renewable energy. So, now we move to the next type of energy, that is non-renewable energy. Non-renewable energy resources have limited amount of stock available. The regeneration rate of non-renewable energy resources is negligible when compared with the rate of consumption. So, that is non-renewable energy that we are using up cannot be recreated in a short period of time or at least in our lifetime. Fossil fuels are important energy resources, and all fossil fuels are non-renewable sources of energy. Fossil fuels include coal, lignite, peat are found under the ground and below the sea floor, petroleum in liquid and gaseous form. Fossil fuels are the remains of ancient plants and animal life. Those are found in so many years ago, millions of years ago we can say. Fossil fuel energy is released in the form of heat. So, first type of fossil fuel is oil we are discussing. So, oil is a liquid fossil fuel that is found under the ground and below the sea floor, and they were formed before and during the time of the dinosaur when plants and animals died. Their decomposed remains gradually changed over years to form coal, oil and natural gas. So, oil and natural gas is formed by complex decay processes from microscopic life forms called phytoplanktons, which floated in the world's ocean millions years ago. Just like today's phytoplankton, they harnessed and stored the solar energy through the process of photosynthesis. Zooplanktons, they are tiny animals which eat phytoplanktons, but themselves are the main food for the fish and some whales. When these myriads of tiny floating plants died, they sank into the sea floor and got buried and slowly hardened into rocks. Heat from the earth's interior and the weight of the overlying rocks gradually changed the energy containing substances in the buried phytoplankton into liquid hydrocarbon and gases. What are the hydrocarbons? They are the simple molecules made up of carbon and hydrogen atoms joined together in chains or in rings. These molecules, being light and mobile, migrated upwards through the rock, but eventually became trapped beneath impermeable rock structure in the earth crust. So, petroleum is one of the most vital sources. Petroleum provides about 40% of the commercial energy used in the world. So, during the past 30 or 40 years, if we see, consumption of petroleum has grown more steeply than other energy sources. Fossil fuels took millions of years to form. So, we are using up the fuels formed more than 65 million years ago. They cannot be renewed, they cannot be made again. So, we have to save fossil fuels by conserving them and finding ways to harness energy from seemingly endless sources like the sun and the wind. So, oil is obtained by drilling. When we talk about oil, so oil is obtained by drilling deep wells into the ground and then pumping it out. Oil can be converted into gasoline. Both oil and gasoline are burned in automobiles and in airplanes. We depend on oil for 90% for our transport and for food, pharmaceutical and chemical industries. Our modern ways of living is totally dependent on oil and gas, but oil industry expert estimated that current reserves will only last for about 40 years. Next type of non-renewable resources of energy is natural gas. Natural gas is also fossil fuel, that is a mixture of gases found under the ground. Natural gas is collected and transported almost the same way as oil, and it burns in home furnaces and cooking ranges. It is now being used in cars and buses for transportation in the form of CNG gas we use. Next non-renewable resources of energy is coal, and coal is the most common for solid fossil fuel, which was used as a primary source of energy in our home and industries too. It is found under the ground in solid form and have to be mined and transported for use. And our country has large coal reserves in the Bihar, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh area. So, coal is mostly carbon, but contains small amount of sulfur. It is formed from plants, mostly trees, which grows millions of years ago in low-lying swampy areas. When these trees died, they sank into the bottom of the swamp. In the swamp, they did not rot fully as there was no air. Partially decayed plant matter in swamp and bogs is called peat, which has low heat content. So, these peats get covered by sand and mud as water subsidized. More material is deposited on them for years and the plant matter gets converted into coal under pressure and heat. That is, plant material get metamorphosed into coal in millions of years. So, this is the most plentiful fossil fuel, but it is a very polluting. Next is nuclear energy. Nuclear energy is liberated from a nuclear reaction for fission or for fusion or by radioactive decay. In a conventional nuclear reactor, isotopes of uranium and plutonium undergo controlled nuclear fission, and resulting is heat produces steam, and that is turned spins turbines to generate energy. So, large fuel supply, low immediate environmental impact, low emission of carbon dioxide, low chances of accidents because of multiple safety systems make this energy a much advantaged resource. Unlike other energy resources, nuclear energy produces highly radioactive materials that must be kept safely for thousands of years until their radioactivity falls to safe levels. Also, when the useful life of a nuclear reactor is 40 to 60 years comes to an end, it cannot be shut down and abandoned like a coal burning plant. It contains large quantities of radioactive materials that must we kept out of the environment for many thousands of years. Safety features make nuclear power plants very expensive to build and maintain. However, management of the nuclear waste disposal, its vulnerability to terrorist attack and misuse of the technology for making nuclear weapons, making it a difficult choice, and that remains world's slowest growing energy sources. So, next we will talk about warning signs. We know couple of centuries ago virtually everyone would have depended on the fuel they could find within a short distance from home. So, fuel required for heat and light travels vast distances to reach us, sometimes crossing not only continents but political and cultural watersheds on the way. These distances create a whole host of challenges, from oil related political instability to the environmental risks of long distance pipelines. So, global energy system is showing worrying sign of strain due to rising demand, climate extremes, geopolitical instability and uneven progress in the energy transition. These pressures are making energy security, affordability and sustainability harder to balance. So, key worrying sign in the energy sector is surging demand for technology and electrification, climate change pressure, geopolitical instability and fossil fuel market volatility. So, rapid growth in electric vehicle, all AI data centers and industrial electrification is driving electricity consumption faster than expected. So, extreme heat events are also increasing cooling demand, adding stress to grids. Climate extremes like heat wave, drought, storms are disrupting energy supply chains and infrastructure. Rising emission from fossil fuels reliance are undermining climate targets. Conflicts and political uncertainty are creating risk of supply disruption and price volatility. A small disruption now trigger global price shocks due to fragile supply chains. Oversupply risk coexist and sudden supply shortages, making fossil fuels market unpredictable. This volatility complicates the transition to renewables. Financing and policy uncertainty is also includes in worrying sign. Tightening financial conditions and inconsistent policies are slowing investment in clean energy. Infrastructure shortfalls and financing gap hinder the pace of energy transition. So, risk factor impact on energy sector: rising tech driven demand, grid strain, higher electricity prices, climate extremes, infrastructure damage, reliability issues, geopolitical instability, supply disruption, global price shocks, fossil fuel volatility, unpredictable cost, transition delay, policy and finance gap, slower renewable adoption and investment risk. So, why all these things matter? Because energy security, affordability and sustainability. When we talk about energy security, nations face difficulty ensuring a stable supply. Consumers risk higher costs due to volatility, and climate goals are jeopardized by rising emission and slow transition. So, also we cannot use fossil fuel forever, as they are the renewable and finite sources. Not everyone depend on the fossil fuel. Nearly a third of the world population has no electricity or other modern energy supplies, and another third have only limited access. So, dear learners, before we wrap up, we would like to recap the main points that in the form of what we have learned. So, energy is defined as ability to work and power is the rate of energy delivery. We have talked about energy is required by all living organisms including humans. Nothing can move or work without the use of energy. Behavior and transformation of energy is strictly governed by the laws of thermodynamics. First law of thermodynamics states that energy can neither be created nor destroyed. Second law of thermodynamics states that energy transformation are never 100% efficient. That is, at each step of energy transformation, some amount of energy is lost as waste heat. The conventional unit of measuring energy is gram calorie. The various energy sources are broadly divided into two broad categories, namely renewable and non-renewable. Renewable energy is the term used to describe energy that comes from the sources whose supply are regenerative and virtually inexhaustible. The most important and inexhaustible source of energy is sun. So, solar energy is harnessed by green plants by the process of photosynthesis for making food and the biomass, which is subsequently used as energy sources by animals including man. The other renewable sources of energy include solar energy, biomass, wind energy, hydroelectric energy, geothermal energy and wave or tidal energy. Non-renewable sources energy sources have limited amount of stocks available. The regeneration rate of non-renewable energy resources is negligible when compared with the rate of consumption. Fossil fuels are important non-renewable energy sources. Fossil fuels are found under the ground and below the sea floor in liquid and gaseous form. Examples of fossil fuels are coal, lignite, peat, gas and oil. Fossil fuels are the remains of ancient plant and animals life found on earth. So, fossil fuels energy is released in the form of heat. Fossil fuel is hydrocarbon and they include coal, lignite, peat, petroleum and natural gas. And there is growing emphasis to promote the use of renewable energy sources to reduce our dependence on fossil fuel, because it later will exhaust it soon. So, growing use of fossil fuels has increased the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, leading to global warming and climate change, and fossil fuels are a non-renewable and finite source of energy and we can't use them forever. Nuclear energy is liberated by nuclear reaction, fission or fusion or by radioactive decay. Nuclear power is generated in a specially designed nuclear power plant that converts nuclear energy into useful power such as mechanical or electrical power. In a nuclear energy power plant, heat produced by reactor is generally used to make steam to drive a turbine that drives as energy generator. So, this is all about importance of energy in society. This is lesson 27B from optional module energy and environment. We will come again to meet you in new program of environmental science. Till then, goodbye and thank you.